Hi, this is a speedrun of a Super Mario World ROM hack called Jump, or Janked Up Mario Party, which completes the game by beating Bowser without using any of the Star Warps in 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 17 seconds. So this hack is a collab hack by the Talkhouse community, so different people made different levels, and I'll mention who made each level as we go along. During this intro cutscene, you actually can't move. It's automatic. The game doesn't let you press any buttons. So this first level, Introduction to Ledges and Edges, was made by a terraformer. This level actually requires a couple glitches to get through. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lure this bullet bill across the level, because it actually lets me skip going into this pipe here, into an underground section, and using that pipe cannon to get across. Here you have to clip through the floor, which is a 3 in 16 chance every time you press A, so it's kind of random. Here you have to hit this message box because it actually spawns the springboard there, and that lets you beat the level. Bonus stars in this game are converted to coins, so getting bonus stars won't cause any penalty later. Alright, this next level, Mushroom Ledge, was made by Quiet Protag. So in this level I try to do a shell jump, which is why I grabbed that shell, and I'm going to bring it with me to the end of the level. I have to make sure I don't crash it into anything along the way, and the movement here is really tricky because I have to keep P-speed through this section, so I have to move really carefully. And then... there we go. That shell jump only saves a few seconds, but it's not as hard as it looks. So I go ahead and grab bonus stars since they're just coins anyway. It can't hurt to get some extra lives, but I shouldn't need them. So I got the normal exit there to go to the lower route in World 1. The next level is Monteithit by K-Shard. This level, the thing with this level is I want to beat the level with 2 fire flowers. So I'll be grabbing a fire flower right after the midpoint here from this box, and then I'll be getting another fire flower at the goal tape. So even though this run doesn't use any Star Warps, there's actually a sequence break later on, which will let me skip like 3 worlds. And that's actually why I'm taking the lower route in World 1, because the next level has a feather, and it's the earliest feather you can get in the game. And that feather is going to allow me to do a sequence break later. So Musical Grasslands is made by Not Good With Usernames. Alright, so here I damage boost through the munchers, and then I use my backup flower to get into the pipe. And the reason I needed a flower in this room is because the feather is in this room at the end here. And after I grab it, I'm going to switch to my fire flower, which puts the feather in my reserve box. And that lets me die to escape the level with the feather without having to beat the level. So now I have a feather in my reserve box, and I can bring it to another level. So now we're going back to Mushroom Ledge to get the secret exit. So the whole reason I took the lower route in World 1 was to get that feather, and this feather is going to save some time in the next few levels. So I do a trick called Pipe Fly here, where I I take off before I go through the pipe, and it preserves takeoff into the next room, so I can start flying immediately. Normally you're supposed to go through a P-switch block maze to get through that room, but if you have the feather, you can just fly. Alright, the next level, Laughtons Plains, is made by Julpin Gambler. So this level tries to filter your feather, but if you press select, you can get around it, and that lets you break through those blocks. Normally you need a shell to get through those. And now I can use the feather in the rest of the level to kill some chucks and save some time. It's actually pretty dangerous killing chucks this way, because if you're trying to go too fast, the way the cape hitbox works is it's based on like a frame rule. It alternates between the left side of Mario's body and the right side like every 4 frames. So if you get unlucky and you're moving too fast, you can kind of get screwed over by the cape hitbox and get hit. So I get the secret exit here because I want to go to Salty Roasted Peanuts. which is the next level. So salty roasted peanuts is made by Izriri. Now this level is where I do the sequence break, so this is the whole reason I got the feather. So first I'm going to grab Yoshi, and I'm going to steal him from the level by remounting him against the ceiling, and that gets me invincibility frames to go through the lightning, and now I can re-enter the level with the Yoshi block intact with Yoshi so that I can spit out this shell to clear some memory, and now I can dupe the Yoshi block by cape spinning the block right when I transform, and that gives me 2 Yoshis, and I use the invisible Yoshi to teleport through the floor and get into this door, which lets me get into the main part of this level, which you're not supposed to be able to access until way later in the game. And beating this level is actually a shortcut to World 4, so basically we're skipping from World 1 to World 4. Now, this level's kind of random. It's called Salty Roasted Peanuts because the footballs that the chucks kick around kind of look like salty roasted peanuts. And the footballs are pretty random, and the chucks kick them based on the global timer, which you can't really predict, so basically their pattern is completely random, and that's why I get the Starman there. Not because it's faster, but because it's safer. Now I do Pipe Fly again here to take off right away. Then I Cape Spin right when I hit the gold tape, and that makes my cape hitbox actually stick to where I hit the gold tape, and the chucks run into it and die, which actually reduces lag during the fade out here. You have to get kind of lucky with the cape hitbox there for that to work. Alright, so now we're in World 4. So the next level is Spike Toss by Lol Yoshi. It's pretty random, because there's a Lakitu. Lakitu's also use the global timer, so they're unpredictable, and his movement is pretty chaotic as well. Now you can fly over these first 2 walls, but you can't fly over this 3rd one, and the walls are pretty inconsistent in this level in general. You can fly over these next 2 walls, but not this one. Now, keeping a cape through this level doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter too much in the next level, so it's okay that I got hit there. It won't save that, or it won't cost that much time. Alright, the next level is called Chuck Magnet by DoAnAir98. Now, Chuck Magnet is a pretty infamous level. It's full of RNG. This guy, his name is Charles Chuckleton II, this Chuck that follows you around. You basically have to escort him through this level, and he can hit blocks for you because he can pass through certain blocks you can't. You can pass through certain blocks he can't, and his movement is very random. His jump timing is completely RNG. There's certain conditions under which he won't jump, so you can kind of manipulate his AI, but not very much. Luckily, the level is set up in such a way that there's almost always some kind of setup you can use to consistently make him do the right thing at the right time. Like here, I'm trying to set it up so that he jumps into that switch. He didn't do it the first time, but I got it the second time there. It also gets kind of confusing trying to keep track of when you need to hit certain switches and things like that. And here's an annoying part. You gotta position him just right, and sometimes he just doesn't want to hit that switch. It can get annoying. I got pretty lucky in this run, but I don't think it's my best Chuck Magnet ever. Now I got to the midpoint. The second half of the level is a little bit different because there's actual pits that the Chuck can fall into, and there's these reset blocks which will allow you to reset if you get stuck. Yeah, that little thing is there to trap him if you get unlucky. So I have a little setup here where I intentionally make him hit a wall so that his jump pattern is consistent. Now here you have to go really fast, and then you have to wait for him to jump. Now here, if he's on level ground with you, he actually won't jump. So you can use that to your advantage to get through that part. This is the last really annoying part. So he's stuck on something, and sometimes when he's off screen, he's moving so fast that I'm not entirely sure, gets like stuck inside the walls or something. Anyway, now here, taking damage doesn't matter, because the next level is going to filter my power-ups anyway. And now, after everything he's put you through, you finally get to kill him. In fact, you have to get through the blocks here. And that's Chuck Magnet. A pretty random level, but despite the randomness in this level, there's not a whole lot of RNG in the rest of the run, and I really enjoy this speedrun, this route through the game. Alright, the next level is called Angry Fish by World Peace. This level has some cool strats. You do a couple damage boosts. So these chucks will wake up the fish, and because the fish are out of water, they kind of just glide toward the ground. So here I'm going to damage boost, so that I don't have to kill that chuck. Save some time. I'm going to go under those plants there. It looks scary, but it's actually really easy. Now here I want to try to keep P-speed. There we go. If you move through there correctly, you can kind of retain your P-meter a little bit. Now, keeping the mushroom here doesn't matter too much, but it's just a little safer if you can keep it. Now this underground section is interesting. You have to lure this pufferfish across the room, and you have to not let him die from any of these shells. So I jump across these platforms in a certain way to kind of time myself. And then I use the pufferfish to get to the P-switch. Going under these plants is a little bit harder, but it's still doable. Alright, so that's Angry Fish. That level is pretty fun to speedrun, in my opinion. Alright, we're almost done with World 4 already. So this level is Palatable Perturbation, again by Jolpin Gambler. So in this level, this strawberry milk here reverses your controls. So when you're in the water, the strawberry milk, left-right is reversed, and when you're out of the water, it's normal, which makes transitioning between the water and the air really confusing. The trick is to sort of make sure you have no horizontal speed when you leave the water, otherwise you get really confused during the transition. Now, I've played this level so much that I feel like the reverse controls have become kind of second nature to me, and I do very similar strats every time I play the level. So it doesn't really mess me up, but it's still a kind of difficult level, and it's a pretty long auto-scroller. There's not a lot of time to lose in this level because it's an auto-scroller, but there's also not really much time to save, except during the boss. The only way you can really lose time is if you take damage and or grab a power-up or something, because the animation of growing and shrinking costs like a second or so each time. And I always like to try to keep at least one mushroom on me in this level, just to be sure that I don't die, because dying here would basically kill the run. Alright, so we made it to the midpoint. Still another half of the level to go. It's hard to tell which of these thwomps are going to be fast thwomps and which ones are regular. There's no actual like visual tell or anything like that. There's no way to tell ahead of time. You kind of just memorize it. At least that's what I do. Now, Jolpin Gambler is actually a kind of infamous level author in this hack. If you've played the hack before, you might remember some of the levels he made. Effortland is kind of the first difficulty spike in the game. We don't play that level in this run. It's in World 2. And he actually has one level in every world in the game. It just kind of turned out that way. I don't think that was planned. so there's going to be another power-up in just a second here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab it just because it doesn't cost any time to grab that mushroom. And we're nearing the boss now. So the boss is really the main place you can save or lose time in this level. It's a little bit random because it's a windy fight. And you have to be really careful because if you try to hit Windy before she comes out of the pipe completely, then her hitbox is not active, so you just end up taking damage. You can see which pipe she's going to spawn from because you can see her feet for 1 frame before she spawns. So you can kind of anticipate where she's going to spawn. Now we actually fight Windy twice in this run. The bosses are not like they are in the original game in this run. There's actually no Larry fight, I believe, in this whole hack, if I remember correctly. And there's 2 Mortons and 2 Windys. Alright, so that's World 4. Now we move on to Rope is Nightmare, which is by Yogui. Alright, so the gimmick of this level is that the ropes can pull you through the floor. It's a glitch in the game engine. If you hold up while you're riding them and they're not on a line, then they'll just fall through the floor and you'll go along with them. They move pretty fast, so it's a little bit hard to get used to, but we're already at halfway through the level. This level's pretty short. Now, the second half has a slightly different gimmick. There's a glitch with the ropes where if you get pushed off of a rope by a wall like that, the game never clears the climbing flag, so it lets you climb on thin air, and you can just climb infinitely like this. Now, these red blocks hurt you if you touch them, so you gotta do some precision climbing here. Now, I'm actually gonna do a damage boost here because I'm near the end of the level, and it saves a little bit of time. Alright, so that's Rope is Nightmare. Pretty straightforward level. Alright, next up is Fortress of the Giant Monsters, made by Daizo and World Peace. This level is really cool. It's also kind of hard to speedrun, but I enjoy it. So the hitboxes of the enemies in this level, they're basically, you know, giant versions of Super Mario World enemies. But their hitboxes and some of the interactions with them can be kind of weird sometimes. Like, you can spin jump straight on the middle of a thwomp, a giant thwomp, which we'll see right here. Sometimes when you're spin jumping on those thwomps, you'll just take damage for no reason instead of bouncing. I actually did a long jump over that pit of lava, which is a little bit precise. I think it's like 2 frames, depending on the movement pattern. Now, these golden statues cause earthquakes when they hit the ground, which stun you. So I'm being careful to be in the air when they hit the ground. These coins rising out of the ground can actually crush you, which almost happened to me there. They can crush you after you hit the P-switch and they turn into blocks, so you have to be careful not to be near them. Now, the thwomps also stun you when they hit the ground, and you can go under that thwomp, which I tried to do, but it's pretty precise. I just went for it because I had a mushroom anyway. Now, I get a feather here, which is it's very important that I keep this feather, because I want to use it in the next level. So this is the boss. You have to hit him 4 times with throw blocks, and that makes him angry, and then he rams into the wall and turns red, and when he's red, you can hit him once to do actual damage, and you have to do damage to him 3 times to kill him. And in the second phase, he jumps higher, and in the third phase, he jumps even higher, and also his shooting becomes more frequent. Every time you pass through his laser sensor, it triggers it, and then he shoots. Now that spawns a orb in the middle of the screen when you beat the level, or when you beat the boss. You can't really see it there because I grabbed it immediately, but... Alright, next up is Lumina Sleeping by Jolping Gambler. So the reason I wanted to keep the feather was because you can actually fly over this level. Most levels in this run you can't really fly over for various reasons, but this one you can, and it saves a lot of time. Or it saves like 30 seconds or something, I think. Anyway, now you'll notice that I'm actually flying instead of just running across the top of these pipes. Your top speed when flying is actually slightly higher than your top speed when just sprinting. But you have to be like actually properly flying, you know, like hang gliding or whatever. There's no guarantee that your speed will actually be higher. I think it's like a 4 in 5 chance that your speed will be higher than just running if you fly, but it's worth going for if you're good at keeping your rhythm. Alright, next up is going to be another auto-scroller, Polished Pipeline by Ravig. We're going to get the secret exit here. So, in this level I absolutely need to keep at least one feather, and I would really like to keep these feathers as long as possible because they'll save time in the next, well, in the next level. They'll make the next level easier at the very least, but it also saves a little time. This level, the first half of this level is very easy, so I kind of just hug the right side of the screen here. There's actually a Chuck right off screen here that I kill with this throw block before he before you can see him. And because I have a feather, I can just glide over all this. And there's even another feather block right here. So even if you start the level small, you still have a chance at the secret exit. Now I'm actually going to do pipe fly here again. I don't actually need to fly at the start of the next room, I'll just cancel it right away. But flying into that pipe saves some time. You have to get through those blocks, which is actually kind of annoying. Anyway, that's the secret exit, and that's going to let us take a much easier path through the next level, Mushroom Tripper, made by Not Good With Usernames and Melon Pizza. Now this level is very technical, it's really hard to speedrun, but I enjoy it. Having a feather is going to save some time. So the gimmick of this level is that these mushroom scale platforms can delete blocks as they rise and sink. So they can kind of erase blocks in your path. And I'm going to use that here to make a path for me. They can even cut the little line there and make the saws go off the line. Alright, so there's the midpoint, but it's not actually a midpoint because this level has 2 checkpoints, so it's kind of divided into thirds. Now here, I can actually skip this next section by flying, which is one of the reasons I wanted to keep the feather. And it lets me skip that little puzzle. And then I'm also going to save a little bit of time in the next room, I believe. Right here, just by flying over that. Now, you're supposed to solve a puzzle to get to this platform in time, but if you have a feather, you can kind of just glide over to it. Alright, there's the second checkpoint, so... I'm gonna try to keep P-speed here so I can fly over here, and you can skip using those mushroom scales, which is actually really dangerous normally because the disco shell is a little bit chaotic, its movement. And you can glide over here and skip that whole section, and you can skip this whole section, so there's a lot of stuff you can skip with the feather in the second room. So, Mushroom Tripper is complete. It's worth noting that I've only died once in this run so far, and it was intentional back in Musical Grasslands in World 1. I don't often get runs that get this far without dying. Alright, the Smaug that smiles back. I intentionally take damage here because this level is kind of more awkward if you're big. A lot of the setups are made for you to be small, like right here. You can get through them big, but it's actually a little bit faster to just do the level small and then repower up at the end. So I do some strategic screen scrolling here to save a little bit of time. It doesn't save much time, but it spawns the platforms a little bit earlier. Now I repower up again in the second half here. I'm going to let this bone despawn, and then I'm going to move forward. Screen scroll again, and I'm going to try to fly here. I got kind of lucky there. Sometimes you get hit by that thwomp even if you move the same way every time. And now for the boss. So you've probably noticed the gimmick of this level, but the boss fight just takes it to the extreme. It's pretty silly. Oh, the Smaug that smiles back, by the way, is made by Raveg again. Alright, this next level is Wigglertuff, made by a terraformer. This level is really easy, actually, but in a run, it's pretty scary just because it's an auto-scroller, and when you're speedrunning, you like to try to, you like it when you actually have control of the pace that you're playing at, and when it's an auto-scroller, it can kind of make you nervous. Alright, so I have to bounce on this guy to get in the pipe, and now we're going to get a Lakitu Cloud, and the auto-scroller, the pace of the auto-scroller is going to start to pick up in just a second here. It's pretty important that I keep these feathers because it saves a lot of time in the next level. I only really need one, but it's good to have two. Okay, so at this point you kind of just want to follow the coins to avoid danger. And then it says jump, and we get a Wiggler head, or an orb. The jump there doesn't actually indicate that you want to jump, it's just a title drop for the hack. Alright, so the next level is the Ruins of Challenging Sadness. This marks the end of World 5. This level was made by Frozelar. So I get that mushroom out of the way so that I can keep my feathers, and then I try to move through this level very carefully because I want to make sure I know when the bullet bills are going to fire based on where I am. So there you can fly to skip bouncing on the bullet bills or the chuck. Now here I started flying and I got scared. I didn't want to take off again, so I actually slowed down a little bit because I didn't want to accidentally fly in the next area, or the next part, and take damage. Now, this is why I wanted to keep the feather. Normally you need to go grab a throw block to hit that block, to eat those red blocks. Those red blocks are just solid, they're not actually switch blocks, and the vine eats them. But if you have a feather, you can just hit the block that way, and skip a couple sections in this level. Now, I still want to keep my feathers because, well, here we have Sideways Morton and a bunch of Lemmy heads flying over us. It's pretty silly. But anyway, I want to keep my feather because I can use it to fly in the next couple levels. Now, there is a storehouse that I can use as a pit stop in case I don't have a feather here, but it takes like 10 to 15 seconds to get the feathers from that storehouse, so it still saves time to not get them. Alright, so next up is World 6. This is the forest world. So I mentioned I can fly in the next couple levels. Even though there's not too many levels you can fly over, 6.1 and 6.2 are both levels you can fly over, at least the first part of it here. Now I slowed down here because I messed up while I was flying, and I needed to get height to get over this pipe. Alright, that gets me into the second half, which is an auto-scroller. Now this level is called Coin Guides Are Always Accurate, and the gimmick of this level is that the coins are actually misleading, so you want to avoid the coins as much as possible. You can see that a lot of them are traps. Some of them are just outright, mark damage sources. Like right here, that top cement block actually hurts you. That's why the coins are there, indicating that it's bad. So this level was designed by Frozelar, once again. I just kind of fly through this section for fun. I think it's a little bit easier than playing it normally, so maybe it's a little less risky, but depends on how comfortable you are with flying. Alright, so that's Coin Guides Are Always Accurate. Oh, I'm sorry. This level was made by Marky Joe 1990, not by Frozelar. I was reading the wrong thing on my notes. Okay, anyway. The next level is Into the Dark Forest by Yoshi. This is another level you can fly over. I kind of messed up there and I didn't get to take off right away. Now, you can fly over this level, but we're going to be getting the secret exit, which is in the second half. The secret exit lets me skip one level, and it's a level you want to skip, let's just put it that way. Not only does it save time to skip a level, but you don't want to play that level. It's hard. Anyway. So there's the secret exit. And next up is All the Way from New Jersey by Jolpin Gambler. This is a pretty infamous level. It's one of the hardest levels in the game that's actually required to beat the game. Probably one of the hardest levels in this run. So I absolutely want my feathers in this level because I can save a lot of time with them, but also it makes this level way easier. You can see the gimmick of this level is darkness, but not only that, there's these lava lotuses and baseball chucks and oh, there's just a lot of projectiles on the screen, and it's really cramped, and having feathers makes this so much easier because you can kill the lava lotuses, and oh, it's so much better with feathers. But it's really easy to lose them, so... Also, this jump right here that I just flew over, or glided over, is a pain without a feather. These green coins indicate mushrooms that pop out. Now, you'll notice that I went right under that baseball without touching it. Basically, the hitbox for the baseballs are only 1 pixel, and when you're ducking on when you duck jump onto a fence, your hitbox is only the lower half of your body. You keep your, like, ducking state. So you can actually go under the baseball there. Alright, so this is the end of the level right over here. That is a really scary level in a run, and it's worth pointing out that I still have not died in this run, which is really hard to get a run this far without dying, especially getting through that level. Alright, the next level is called Get the Normal Exit by Yogui. Now, Get the Normal Exit has a pretty cool gimmick. The gimmick here is you want to avoid getting the secret exit, which is where the level gets its name. So, you can actually get P-speed through this room, but I kind of messed it up there. It's kind of precise. And you need to use the keys to get into the door. Kind of messed up the movement there, but that's fine. Alright, now... There I messed up, and I accidentally got the secret exit of shame. So getting that secret exit just unlocks a useless path. And now I have to start the level over. So unfortunately that was the first major time loss in this run. But actually it doesn't cost that much time because the level's pretty short. Now I managed to get P-Speed that time. Alright, so what I tried to do last time was inch my way to the edge here and then turn around and fall real quickly to do that. And then here, I'm going to try and toss the key up to the door, but I messed it up, and I panicked and I didn't want to touch the keyhole, so I dropped the key intentionally and then I respawned it. And now I'm kind of trying to set myself back up again. So that costs a little bit of time. Now here's an evil trap. There's a key and a keyhole right where you spawn, so if you're holding the Y button when you enter that room, you automatically get the secret exit. So you have to know that in advance, it's just a little trap. Luckily that level's pretty short, so time losses in that level don't matter too much, but... Alright, next up is Balls. Balls is by Yogui, again. This is yet another auto-scroller. This level is actually kind of hard. It's got footballs, which are pretty random, as I mentioned before. And it's also got really, like, tight jumps that you have to do, tight timings, with these bowling balls that roll across the screen. So I'm being extra careful around the footballs, because they can, sometimes if a football is moving upward very quickly from a bounce, and you're moving downward very quickly toward it, you can actually pass right through it and take damage because the stomp detection fails. It's, again, just another quirk of the engine. Super Mario World's collision detection isn't super sophisticated or anything, so... Okay, so we're at the midpoint. I'm actually going to skip grabbing the midway point, which was just past the door there, because it saves time. And I shouldn't die here. It's pretty easy, and dying here would cost a lot of time. I should say this is pretty easy once you've practiced it a lot. It's easy to get caught off guard in this level the first time you play it. I'm also not grabbing any dragon coins in this run, obviously. They are sort of required for 100%ing the game, but they're not required in this run since I'm just trying to beat Bowser. So you'll notice that these bowling balls sometimes don't always touch the ground before they start rolling. That's because they're programmed to fall like a set distance and like stop at a certain point. They're just like hard-coded that way. They don't actually obey gravity or interact with the floor. They're just pre-programmed to roll at a certain time. This part is scary. You can get crushed there if you're big. And those footballs are scary, but I made it through without any problems, so... So that was Balls. Next up is gonna be The Trees Are Dead by Ravig. Okay, The Trees Are Dead is a pretty fun level to speedrun. I'm gonna intentionally take damage here, and this level gets really technical. I'm screen scrolling here to spawn some stuff early, and that makes the patterns for these pencils line up nicely. Now, you need the Bowser statue to fire here, which is, again, kind of random. It's based on a global timer. Alright, this part's really technical. I have to scroll the screen a certain way to make that platform spawn at the right time so that I can beat that cycle. Now, I'm gonna do a damage boost coming up right here. Skips me having to wait for that little Sparky. Bounce on that thwomp, grab this. Now, I got lucky with the flame there. And here, I'm gonna damage boost again. And that's gonna let me skip using the fireball to get across that gap, which saves a little bit of time. Now I have to wait for these guys to shoot fireballs. And that's the trees are dead. It's a really fun level to speedrun, but it's pretty hard. So we're almost done with World 6 now, already. There's only 7 worlds in this run. Well, fewer than 7, but World 7 is the last. So this is Shell Shrine. It's made by a Terraformer, Lol Yoshi, and World Peace. The level's kind of divided into 2 sections and then a boss. So you can see the gimmick of this section is you have to feed the shells to the... Well, not feed them, but give them to the blue Koopas to hit the switches for you. And you have to be fast, and there's a little bit of a skip I do near the end of this room. So right here, I want him to kick the shell as early as possible to give me the most time to get to the edge of the screen here to hit this switch as early as possible so that I can run past these blocks right before he hits that. That lets me skip this final puzzle, so I don't have to throw the shell up there. And now I can get into the next part of the level. So the gimmick here is that the shells on the little blue pedestals are like, well, it's a shell shrine. And when you collect the shell, it triggers a trap, and everything spawns out of these blocks, and the ceiling comes down to crush you. But you need to grab the shell to activate the switches. Well, in this case, you don't need to grab the shell, but you need to avoid the shells getting destroyed. Alright, so I damage boost here because being big doesn't really matter, actually. Alright, now there's a skip coming up that is pretty random. You can kind of, if you move the same way every time, you can kind of, well, basically what I do is I clip the wall there, which lets me get into the pipe without hitting the switch. Now here the gimmick is you need to do the Indiana Jones thing where you swap out one item for another without triggering the trap. And then you need to use the shell to sacrifice the shell to the gods and unlock the path. Now I got kind of lucky there with the Windy spawn. If you get unlucky, you don't kill Windy. If you kill, you don't have to kill Windy's dummies. You only have to kill Windy and the piranha plants and the shells. Those are the 3 things you have to kill, is the piranha plants that come out of the pipes, Windy herself, not her dummies, and the 2 shells have to collide with each other. There's a reset door if you mess it up, but... And then we get a nice little reference here. Alright, so we're done with World 6. The next level is the Lava Gap by Jolpengambler. This level has a lot of RNG. Luckily, in this level, we're only getting the secret exit, which is much easier. And this level is very random. There's a ton of footballs, which are random, and the football chuck's timing is random, and it's just different every time you play it, and you have to kind of adapt. Now, you have to go really fast to beat the P-switch timers here. Especially after the second P-switch, you have to really make sure you don't waste any time. And I got kind of lucky there. You can see I just barely made it past those coins. Now, next up is Think Fast by Frankie. This is a vertical level where you're descending. And basically you're going to be breaking blocks the whole time, drilling through these blocks. This level, interestingly, actually has... Well, there's kind of a newish skip in this level, or a skip that I didn't do in this run, where you can duplicate a block to go out of bounds and skip some of these sections. Now, this level actually, interestingly, has some mechanism to prevent you from getting screwed if you clip the wall. There's actually these invisible tiles in this level, which will force you to start spinning in the air if you're not spinning. So if you accidentally clip the wall and lose your spin jump, you can still... It'll make you keep spinning. So it actually has some mercy on you there. We need this springboard. You can actually shell jump to skip this springboard, but it's really precise. World 7 is my favorite world in this run. It's very fast-paced and fun. But I really enjoy most levels in this run.
Orb.
Now, the next level is another fast-paced level. It's also kind of an auto-scroller. There's a lot of those in this run, it seems. So this level is called Rock Climbing Rush by Daizo. I'm trying not to talk too much so you can enjoy the music. So these springboards, you can't actually pick them up. Alright, now the lava picks up the pace here a little bit. So I actually go into a door off screen there to save a little bit of time. Since I have the layout kind of memorized, it's not too bad to just bounce on the note blocks blind and then go into the door blind. Now I still haven't died in this run, and I really don't want to die in this level because if you die in this level, then it cuts off the music, and the music resets when you re-enter, and you don't get to hear the whole song. So again, these red blocks are just... they're basically just cement blocks. Well, the difference is that sprites can pass through them. But they're just solid for Mario. Alright, and that's the final orb of the run. And that's Rock Climbing Rush. Alright, the next level is called Root of Yggdrasil by World Peace. So World Peace makes some of the best levels in this hack. This one is actually really easy compared to the levels around it. It's a little bit out of place. It's kind of long though. Now, you can bounce across those bubbles there, which saves a very small amount of time, and it's kind of risky, but I go for it anyway for some reason. The hitboxes on those bubbles are very forgiving. You can get into that pipe before the bubble gets to it. This level showers you with power-ups in the beginning. It even gives you Yoshis that you don't need. Alright, so there's a little bit of a risky strat coming up. Near the end of the skull raft ride. So the gimmick here is you can actually see the a mirror of the skull raft up on top. So you can see where the skull raft is below you, and you don't have to do any blind jumps. It's a pretty clever little little trick. Alright, so here I'm going to try to do a little bit of a skip where I bounce on this guy, and I failed and I died. So that's actually the first unintentional death of the run. Luckily, it didn't cost too much time since I had just gotten a checkpoint, but I do have to redo this raft section. And the fact that I lost my feather really doesn't matter at all, because essentially your power-ups get filtered in the next room anyway. So it could have been a lot worse. Alright, now we finally get to the pipe. Yeah, so World Peace has a thing for weird sound effects. Anyway, so the gimmick of this room is that you have to take damage to pass through these pipes, or past these pipes without going inside them, because you can't duck slide through them since you would enter the pipe. And then you get power-ups again here, and there's a couple damage boosts you can do in this room that save very small amounts of time, but I go for them anyway. Now, unfortunately, I really messed up here, and I couldn't really go for any damage boosts. Actually, that's not true. I still can go for a damage boost. Because the level gives you another mushroom right here. So right here at the very end, I intentionally damage boost and run across the munchers, saves a very small amount of time. Okay, so now we're at the last little puzzle here. Well, second to last puzzle, I think. Anyway. Basically, you're supposed to grab the shell so that when you fly, you don't go into your, like, hang gliding animation, whatever you call that. And you can get through those blocks. And finally, we made it out of the caverns and beat the level. Alright. So that's a pretty silly level. It's not very hard though. It's a little bit difficult to speedrun since I did die in it. Maybe that kind of shows. The next level is called Scaffolding Scuffle, and it's by both a Terraformer and World Peace. Terraformer made the first half. I really like the music in this level. It's Twilight Space from Super Bonk. So I jumped there to keep the Chuck in, or to stay in the Chuck's line of sight, so that he follows me all the way. Alright, now the level filters your feathers here and turns it into a mushroom. Okay, so the gimmick here is that the lightning now spreads all the way across the ground rather than just 5 tiles like it normally does. The second half of the level here was made by World Peace. He likes gimmicky things like this. Alright, now here I'm going to do a pretty cool trick. I set it up, and then I go under that Chuck. It looks really scary, but if you set it up right, you can tell if you're on a good pixel, if you look carefully, and then you can just hold jump and forward while ducking. Alright, so here to avoid the lightning, you have to strategically hit blocks, and this is all timing. And then you get the P-switch, and that's the end of the level, pretty much. I did a glitch where I recycled the P-switch through the pipe by grabbing the flattened P-switch before it disappeared and carrying it through the pipe. It like resets its properties in the next room, and that lets me get a mushroom at the gold tape, which just makes the next level a little bit safer. So that's Scaffolding Scuffle. Next up is Ludwigs Grindhouse by Zin. This level is pretty scary in a run because it's right near the end of the run, and it's a pretty hard level. It's right up there with All the Way from New Jersey as being one of the hardest required levels in the game. Although technically it's optional because there is another path you can take through World 7 that doesn't play this level, but it also plays another hard level, so this level might as well be required. And when I say required, I guess I'm not including Star World. So here's another auto-scroll section, but this one's pretty hard. You have to do some like weird maneuvers in the air, like that right there, where you had to trigger the thwomp, like, while kind of circling around with your jump. And there I messed up, but I salvaged it somehow. Alright, so that's the first half of the level down. You'll notice I wait at certain points, basically waiting for things to line up good, or for things to shoot their projectiles before they spawn or something, or before I encounter them. Alright, so here is a little bit of randomness. There's a Magic Koopa. So you need him to hit blocks for you. And unfortunately, I prematurely killed him there because I thought his magic was going to hit one of the blocks, but I accidentally scrolled the camera and despawned the magic before it hit the block. So I had to wait for him to spawn again, so that cost some time. But I got pretty lucky with the RNG overall, so can't complain too much. Now, I try to go under that Mega Spike, but it's pretty hard, so I don't really care if I take damage there. It doesn't really change much. It just makes this next section a little weird. Going under that Mega Spike is a little scary. Anyway, now here I play with the camera a little bit, and I wait a little bit before I go, and then that should trap the hopping flame there, and you'll notice that the hopping flame got eaten by the Mega Spike and just skyrocketed into the ceiling. So that hopping flame is otherwise kind of a pain, because their movement is RNG, when they decide to jump is RNG, how high they jump is RNG, and which direction they jump, like whether they decide to follow Mario or not is RNG, so... Alright, so I got really lucky there with that bullet. The bullets here can spawn, they spawn at the edge of the screen, so you want to stay away from the edges of the screen because it's random. Now, I also got unlucky with that bullet, and I couldn't do the quick kill on Ludwig because the bullet was in my way. So I got kind of... that was a scary fight, let's just put it that way. This whole level is pretty scary, but I got through it without too much trouble, and I didn't die. That's the important thing. So this run still only has one unintentional death. And now we get ready for the last level in the game, which is Bowser's Castle. Now, Bowser's Castle is a collab level within a collab hack, meaning that the level itself was made by different people. So in this case, different people made different rooms in the level. Sorry for the noise if you can hear that. But here we go. Bowser's Castle. So Bowser's Castle, you get a choice of like what rooms you want to do. In this first room here, you get a choice between 3 doors. So I'm gonna damage boost here so I can get P-speed, and I'm gonna skip door 1, I'm gonna skip door 2, and I'm gonna go in door 3. Door 3 is by far the shortest and easiest, and it gives you a bunch of power-ups. Well, it gives you like 2 power-ups, but it's definitely the safest room to choose, and it's the shortest as well. So I took damage there on accident, but luckily there's a secret mushroom right there, and I'm just gonna damage boost through the rest of the room. Alright, so in this level there's 2 speedrun routes. There's the, well, kind of 3 speedrun routes. There's kind of the safe one, and then there's, well, there's a cape route and a no cape route, let's just put it that way. So I'm going for the cape, which means I have to do this room, because this room has a cape. And I need to keep it as long as I possibly can, because it'll save time later. But it's very unlikely that I'll keep it all the way to the end of the level, because it's extremely hard. Alright, this part is especially difficult. Yeah. So I took damage there, which means I don't have the feather for the rest of the run, basically. You can get another feather in room 8 later on, but... Oh, I should mention that room 3 was made by Quiet Protag, and this room, room 5, with the munchers here, was made by Yogui. So the little muncher snake here, it's a pretty silly gimmick. I like it, but in a speedrun, it's all memorization, and it's pretty boring, but it is actually the fastest room to do without a cape. Room 6 is actually faster if you have a cape, because you can fly through some of it. Alright, now we get another choice, left or right. Now you'll notice my fireballs do weird things here, because when they touch an escalator, they teleport. Alright, so this is the laser room. Also, well, this room's pretty hard. It's made by Melon Pizza. So I do damage boosts in this room. If you have a cape, you can actually do what's called cape canceling, where you don't take damage with your cape, but you can basically cancel damage and pass through some of the lasers that way. And there's some cool strats in this room if you have a cape, but unfortunately I couldn't do it in this run. Losing cape early on, like I did, actually costs probably over a minute of potential time save. So I've already sacrificed a lot of time in this level. Alright, next up we're gonna pause the game and use that to make sure we go in door 7, because door 7 is by far the easiest. Door 7 is made by World Peace. The other 2 are made by Morcel, I don't know how to say that. Morcel, something like that. It's French. Anyway, I just call him Morsel. Now, this is the library. Every time you hit the ground really hard, it alerts the fish and the, okay, so I kind of messed up here. I tried to kill that fish with the throw block, the pufferfish, and I ended up losing my fire flower, which is kind of annoying because I'm not used to doing the rest of this room without a fire flower. Then I screwed up by getting rid of the next fire flower, or putting it in an unreachable place. And now the pufferfish is in a bad spot, and basically I just really screwed up here, so I'm wasting a whole bunch of time to get this fire flower. Now I have to wait for this platform to respawn. Takes a little while. Not respawn. There we go. So I finally got my fire flower back. Now I'm gonna wait for this pufferfish. Okay, so that was pretty bad. I lost like over 30 seconds, I think. Anyway, this room is really easy, but I messed it up pretty badly. Alright, the next room is made by Jolpin Gambler. It's full of lava. It's pretty hard. There's actually a wall jump you can do right here, but I messed it up. It's 1 frame. If you move consistently from the beginning of the room, the wall clip itself is actually consistent. The jump timing is still 1 frame, but you can get the clip consistently. So I managed to get the clip there, but I did not get the jump. It saves a few seconds, probably like a little over 10 seconds maybe. Maybe not quite that much. So, Photobo jump. Okay, so moving through this room as cleanly as I can. I try to just kind of keep moving. I have some fast strats. Now here you can do a Photobo jump off that Photobo, but it's extremely dangerous and hard, so I don't go for it anymore. There's actually some sprites that just don't spawn in that room sometimes. Alright, we made it basically to the end of the level, and I'm actually skipping the checkpoint right there, which is extremely risky at this point in the run, because you can imagine I've got a run with only one death all the way to Bowser, and I decide to skip a checkpoint, so if I do die to Bowser, it would basically kill the entire run. Now, Bowser is modified in this hack. This modified version of Bowser is made by Morcel Morceau, who is a very infamous level author in this hack. Made some of the hardest levels, most memorable levels. Now, the gimmick with this fight, the first phase, he swings to the ground a lot lower, which makes him harder to dodge. And also the Mecha Koopas jump whenever you jump. And these fireballs fall down a lot faster. So the fight is modified. Now, in the second phase here, I try to do very particular movement to set up what I call double ball skip. So when Bowser drops his bowling balls, you can actually skip the animation of him dropping his bowling balls. Now, you'll notice that that bowling ball actually went extra fast, and that's because in this fight, the bowling balls bounce off the edges of the screen like that. Well, they bounce once, and then they disappear. Now, he throws two balls, and then he drops the Mecha Koopas. So I have to make sure I'm in the air. Because the Mecha Koopas jump when you jump, you have to kind of juke them out. It's pretty tricky. And there's not a lot of room to work with because of Bowser's propeller being so close to the ground. It actually damages you. And the other thing is, in Phase 1 you have to hit Bowser 2 times, but in Phase 2 you have to hit him 3 times, and in Phase 3 you have to hit him 4 times. So you actually have to wait through 2 phases of the bowling balls. Now you'll notice that I didn't get the ball skip, but I was saying that you can actually hit him with a Mecha Koopa right before he drops the bowling ball to skip that, but I messed it up. Alright. Now just one phase left. Now Phase 3 looks really hard, but if you stick to the strats, it's not that bad. So basically he does 13 bounces the first time, and he only throws one Mecha Koopa in this phase, and he always throws it to the left. Then the second time he does 8 bounces. And every time after that he does 8 bounces. So I have to hit him 4 times. And you'll notice that I've kind of fallen into a pattern here where I just move the same way every time. And there we go. That's Bowser, and that's the end of the run. So the timing starts when I select one player mode on the title screen, and timing ends when Peach appears. And based on that timing, the run is 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 17 seconds, roughly. Now we get the final cutscene. The credits are edited, but the rest of the cutscene isn't really edited. So that was No Star World, which is currently my favorite category to run in this game. But we have a whole bunch of other categories. If you go to speedrun.com/jump, that's all lowercase jump. We have a few other categories. No Star World is the most popular category, but We also run 11 exit, which is sort of like the any percent for this game. It happens to be the same number of exits as in the original Super Mario World. So you can see all the credits here, if you're curious about the development team for this hack. This hack is really fun to play, even if you don't speedrun it, even if you just play it casually, I highly recommend it. It's probably my favorite ROM hack, and has been for a while. There's a sequel in the works. We have a Discord server for speedrunning, but we also have like a couple channels for just talking about playing the game casually. So if you're interested, I'll have a link in the description. This run in particular, I'm really proud of. My goal time for this category for a while was sub 110, that is under 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I got 109.17 in this run, so ultimately I was really happy with it. The only notable mistakes really were in Get the Normal Exit when I got the Secret Exit of Shame, and in Root of Yggdrasil when I died, and also kind of messed up in one of the rooms. Then there was Ludwigs Grindhouse when I killed the Magic Koopa prematurely. And then lastly, Bowser's Castle in Room 7. Well, losing Cape was a pretty big mistake, but I almost expected to lose Cape because I never managed to keep it to the end of the level there. And then messing up in Room 7. So there were very few notable mistakes in this run. And there is a faster strat in Think Fast that's doable in real time, I believe. But ultimately, I'm really satisfied with this run. I'm really happy about it, and that's why I decided to do a proper commentary for this run. There was live commentary. If you want to watch that version, I'll have a link in the description for the Twitch VOD. And yeah, if you want to get into speedrunning this game, I do have a playlist of some of the ILs for this category. By ILs, I mean individual level runs. But a lot of those strats are different than what I actually use in runs. I also did a theory task of this category. I really enjoy this category a lot. So I recommend this category if you've beaten the game before. But just keep in mind, it's a pretty long category for your first run. It's probably going to take multiple hours. So I don't necessarily recommend it as a first category, but it is my favorite category. And this is a pretty hard ROM hack, but I recommend pretty much everybody to play it. At least play, up until you can't make progress anymore. Give it a chance. And but I'd love to see more people speedrun this game. And there are communities for various other ROM hacks that people speedrun of Super Mario World. But this is the only ROM hack that I run. This is really the only thing I'm currently speedrunning. But I'm really happy with this run, so I'm kind of retired from this category for now. But I still plan to do some for fun runs of this in the future. And I might move on to other categories as well, but thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.